Trump has basically gotten rid of the Green New Deal, which he coined the Green New Scam. And basically, from my understanding, what he says, his interpretation of it was, it basically demonized fossil fuel products and fossil fuel burning vehicles and engines for the sake of saving the environment by using electrical ones and wind energy and things of that nature. In that speech, he did identify, which I agree with, they are notoriously unreliable and still rely on fossil fuels to even run, if we're going to be honest about the entire situation. Also, there's not enough materials for everyone to have an electric running vehicle or to literally have a minimal carbon footprint. Remember, a lot of things are made and built in other countries that don't regulate their fossil fuels in the same way, i.e. China. All we did was take all the working jobs that produce fossil fuels in the West and just send those jobs overseas, and then said, we're the ones cleaning, it's clean, and there's nothing we could do about the other ones. When the reality is we still are heavily dependent on fossil fuels. And by criminalizing fossil fuels and other things, all that does is potentially make prices escalate even more. Now, the expectation is that Trump doing this will bring the prices of vehicles down. That won't necessarily be true, though. Because to be honest, do you think any of these companies are going to lower their prices and pass on the savings to us when they get to save money? The only thing I can see customers saving on is when it comes to refueling their car, maintenance, and things of that nature. But the price of the vehicles, and you better believe, are going to keep going up and up regardless of the legislation. The thing is, though, it will cost the customer less to run vehicles, and I get that. He's estimating up to $3,000 worth of savings for the average American, which I could see that happening if we just stop focusing on green energy, punishing fossil fuels and focusing solely on green energy, which depends on the fossil fuels anyway. That's where we are. It's weird. It's a weird situation. I think Trump is mostly right on this. The only part I would disagree with him on is the fact that the savings, which he didn't really specify, to be fair, is going to come from the changes. But I don't think sales of the vehicles will go down. I think these companies, the problem is, if the companies were doing things in good faith and doing the right thing, you wouldn't even need the Environmental Protection Agency, because they wouldn't be doing grimy things like throwing fuels into oceans and lakes and streams, polluting our atmosphere. If they just did the ethical thing, wouldn't need the EPA. The EPA was invented to get them to do at least the bare minimum, which they actually struggle with doing. I'm not saying all the companies are like that, but all you need is one or two companies doing that, and they could cause some serious damage. Look at Greenland, for example. There was a accident, I forget what, crashed down in Greenland. Needless to say, it had nuclear products on it, and it's still on the ice. And there's an actual genuine fear that when the ice melts in Greenland, it could spread in the region at the very least and cause catastrophic change to the environment and potentially the people. This is what I mean. Just because the company mass produces things and employs people doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do the ethical and right thing to do about the planet. I see two sides to this. I see the people that are for the changes that Trump's making think they're going to save money. That's not really going to happen. But I also see the people that say they want the earth to be cleaner and greener. Are they really willing to pay the price you would have to pay for that to happen? And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about it would require lifestyle change. If we're going to be honest, it's not us going green is what's going to save us. It's moderation and limitations. 90+% of people don't want to give up their lifestyle, don't want to give up their excess, and don't want to be worse off than the next person. And people, that's the real problem. Because you see, if we used our energy more sensibly and a hell of a lot less than we do, we probably wouldn't even need the EPA or any other environmental protection agency, because we wouldn't be polluting enough to make the impact that we're making today. How many people walk to the shops instead of drive, or ride a bicycle instead of drive? Or even if you use electric bikes, I guess those can be powered by you, but remember, to get the electrical materials, you had to mine and find the resources in the first place. It's more complicated and nuanced, and it's not that simple. And just simply slapping a label on it and saying it's green and clean doesn't really fix it. And then telling working class people that they need to be careful which bin they throw their stuff in, when all that's really doing is perpetuating the production of plastics and fossil fuels in the first place. How can the people that use the product be at fault for the product being able to be used? Carbon footprint, remember, was invented by big oil companies, basically. Something to think about, isn't it? It's a lot to think about, I know. No, I don't claim to have all the answers, and I don't think anybody does. But I do think if we lived a more modest life and focused on moderation and limitation and using just what we need, we wouldn't have half the problems we have today. That's the real issue. Because even if we switch to electric with everything and all this other stuff, guess what? We're going to overuse those items too, aren't we? We're not going to use less of them. And that's the problem. It's us and overconsumption. And until we actually look ourselves in the mirror and realize that, I don't think things will ever change.